Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the city in which we live. Guide us this evening as we make our decisions. In Christ's name, amen. Amen. This is the regular meeting of the Newnan City Council, September 24th, 2019. You have the minutes from the regular meeting of the Newnan City Council of September the 10th, 2019. Before you, I'll entertain a motion. We adopt those
I'd like
minutes.
to make that motion.
Second. Motion second. We adopt the minutes as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda, we have several appointments to boards and commissions. We have a replacement appointment for the Cultural Arts Commission, Ms. Jenkins.
Yes, I'd like to place into nomination Makisha Strickland.
Second. Okay. Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next is an appointment to Cultural Arts Commission. Mr. Greco.
I'd like to place that on the next.
All right, that's fine, no problem. And then Mr. Shell is a replacement for the Keep Newnan Beautiful.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Matt Bryan.
Second. Motion is second. We place Mr. Matt Bryan on the Keep Newnan Beautiful Commission. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Also under boards and commissions tonight, we have the annual report from Keep Newnan Beautiful.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you, Mr. Burr?
I'm doing well. My name is Scott Bird. I am the chairman of the Keep Newnan Beautiful Commission, and here to present our annual report. I'll keep this brief, but informative. Quickly, ask him my point. Which way my point?
Just right here.
Oh, down there. Keep Newnan Beautiful is an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful and a local affiliate of Keep Georgia Beautiful. I'm doing good work here tonight. We are a nonprofit, city-funded organization, and we are working to inspire and educate individuals in our community towards greater environmental stewardship. And we are probably one of the more publicly engaged commissions associated with the city. Board members are myself, Alicia Bohannon, Bill Boyd, Brenda Jessel, Constance Jordan, Rachel Murrell, Paul Richardson, Tim Ross, Lynn Lovestainer, Emmy Van Patten, and Shalonda Vassar-West. We have a lot of volunteers that come help us out on our monthly events. Over the last year, we had 217 volunteers, totaling over 1,700 volunteer hours. And these volunteers picked up almost 2,900 pounds of litter and debris. Recycling obviously is a big component of our establishment. So this year we recycled almost 1,300 household participants came to our events, either recycling or Christmas tree recycling. 35,000 pounds of paper was shredded. 26 tons of tires was recycled. One of those events was a partnership with Coweta County as well, so we had two recycling locations across the county. Over 3,400 gallons of paint was recycled. I keep forgetting that no one else has this paper in front of them. Over 12,000 pounds of electronics were recycled, those consisting of computers, laptops, LCD monitors, CRT monitors, CRT TVs, and flat TVs. And yes, there are still CRT monitors and TVs out there, and we are slowly getting them and putting them away. On education, so we engage with multiple schools within the school system, and there's a list of several of them up there. For elementary schools, we specifically and directly engage with over 58% of our elementary schools, over 66% of our high schools, totaling over 57% of all schools in the Coweta County system. So we get in and work a lot with the local school system, with the STEM Institute and the Coweta Water Education Team. This year we had a very special event that was downtown where we engaged local businesses to sponsor local schools, and the students made recycled flower bouquets for April showers, bring May flowers. We raised over $3,600 for environmental education. Next was our cigarette litter prevention campaign, and Keep Newnan Beautiful produced a video that went along with this, paid for by a grant with Keep America Beautiful, and we'll of quick little minute and a half. We'll play that real quick for you.
I hope it's not too loud.
One of the biggest litter problems facing Newnan is smaller than you might think. Because they contain a concentration of toxins filtered from tobacco smoke and are made from plastic, these little butts are a big problem, especially when they enter storm sewers and end up in streams, where they leach chemicals into the water. We are not alone. Cigarette litter is the most littered item in the United States. Cigarette butts are everywhere. No matter where they get dropped, it's litter. And in Newnan, littering is illegal. So make sure you put your cigarette butts where they belong.
Because if you drop a butt, we'll book your butt.
Don't let this little butt be a big problem. To get it.
So obviously, we'd like to thank the city police department for helping us out with that. So that was a great production we put up with our grant for cigarette litter education. Along with that, we have got space on the electronic billboard out by the interstate. It says "Don't be trashy" with cigarette butts as well, furthering our community knowledge to not throw cigarette butts out. Now, a huge shout out to Paige Beckworth, our city director of Keep Newnan Commission. I would have to say she single-handedly organized and put this outdoor classroom together with a partnership from Niagara Bottling, New Utilities donated mulch, Columbia Engineering with site planning, Crane Oil with pallets, Buck's Tires gave us tires for the playground, and it's a wonderful facility. As you can see, they can use pool noodles to do light bright activities, and there's sensory pads that kids can walk on, and rock walls, and little telephone poles for basically seats for an outdoor classroom, and a chalkboard located on Carmichael Street there across from behind University of West Georgia campus. So we're happy to have that in the community as well. As you can see, total volunteer hours is over 1,700. The value of those hours is over $41,000. In-kind donations is a little over $3,400. Private non-government cash contributions, $2,400. Private foundation grants, Keep America Beautiful grants, over $18,000. Total program benefits over $67,000. And using the Keep America Beautiful formula, Keep Newnan Beautiful has a cost-benefit ratio of $7.43 for every dollar spent between June of 18 to June of 19. So we're thankful to be a part of the city organization, thankful for the support of all the councilmen that show up at our events, and we'd like to thank you all for everything that we have the opportunity to do here in the city, and we look forward to another year.
Mr. Berta, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions from council? We appreciate you and all the members of your committee. Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is to introduce, if you will, Ms. Jenkins, Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins, to introduce the members of the Newnan Youth Council who are here this evening.
We have with us tonight Callie DeBose, 12th grader, Northgate. She's also the Northgate representative. Davis Fabre, 11th grade, Newnan. He's the Newnan rep. Bethany Furbish, who is the 12th grade parliamentarian from East Coweta High. Bo Martin, 11th grade, the Heritage School, and he's the treasurer. And Graham Cullen, 11th grade, East Coweta, and the East Coweta rep.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. Thank you. And thank you for serving on the Youth Council. Ms. Phillips, you have anything this evening? I don't have anything this evening. Under new business, this is a public hearing. This is a consideration of the ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newnan, adopting revisions to Article 1, Chapter 6, Businesses. You've got this in your agenda. You've had the opportunity to speak to staff regarding the issue. If there are any questions, this will be the opportunity, or if there's a motion to adopt. So moved. Wait, I'm sorry. This is a public hearing. Statute required. Statute required public hearing. If you have come to this meeting tonight to make comment on this particular agenda item, this is your opportunity to come forward and speak. If you'll come forward to speak to the issue, please. You'll state your name for the record. You thought for a second there you weren't going to be able to speak, didn't you?
You know, well,
I was
it's
gonna
okay. Parks Avery, thank you, council members. This is a new ordinance. I'm afraid I will have to confess that I probably got this started myself back in the spring with Miss Katrina because it became very apparent to me that many folks in my business and other businesses were not purchasing business licenses. And it seems unfair that some of us pay this business license and others don't. So I started asking some questions and getting some lists of people in different business types who have paid, and I'm looking around at those who haven't. And Katrina and I have spent a little time on that. So she's done a really wonderful job in sort of recasting this ordinance. I do have a couple of questions, and I think I would like to ask you guys to take some more time to think about it. First of all, the enforcement part is the issue here. Katrina and her staff don't have the ability to enforce this thing. Now, she's tried to make some changes on that, but I think it's still a little bit loose, if that's the case. And on the other side of that, we don't want to chase businesses out of the city either. There is a list of those businesses that pay a flat fee rather than a percentage of their revenues. Our Brad Sears has promised me that he will explain to me soon where that list, how that list is developed. But to me, when I'm reading the list, it comes from a list from the state that has really nothing to do with business licenses. So we have in the past made exceptions to that list, okay, arbitrarily. So I want to make sure that you guys have the information that, number one, let's make a rule, let's not make exceptions, and let's enforce it. So I really would ask you if you would consider to think about this a little bit more and not just pass this thing today. I think there's some more work to be done. So thank you very much.
We appreciate those comments. Anyone else here tonight to have comment regarding the ordinance that's before us? This is the Code of Ordinances, City of Newnan, Article 1, Chapter 6, Businesses. Okay, we'll close the public hearing at this time and ask for comments from staff regarding Mr. Avery's comments. Are we ready, or do you need some more time?
Mr. Sears will probably elaborate a little bit on and follow up on what I'm going to state, but what Mr. Avery was speaking to was the practitioner fee, the professional practice, which has the options in lieu of paying the gross receipt, based upon gross receipts, they can actually pay a flat fee. And if you look, I'm sorry, the pages aren't numbered, but if you look on the first, second, third, fourth, fifth page of the ordinance, actually in the red lines, you can actually see where it relates to the $400 per practitioner. What Mr. Avery was referring to, and Mr. Sears, I think, will explain a little closer, is there's a list of professional practitioners in the statute. And I think Mr. Avery was asking how we could include or exclude, I guess, certain professions from that particular list, so that Mr. Avery, in this case, would have the option to pay the flat fee instead of gross receipts. That's number one. In terms of enforcement, got ultimate respect for Mr. Avery, go back a long way. And I don't think it's a lack of choosing and picking and choosing when this ordinance is enforced. I don't think that's the case at all. It's just, it's not as easy as you may think to audit books of businesses to make sure they're paying the right fee, to know when businesses start, when they don't start. You know, we're actually not, having inspectors sit around and looking for startup businesses on a daily basis. But I will tell you that when it is brought to our attention, through whatever means it may be, that someone is not operating a business or operating a business without an occupational tax certificate, Ms. Klein and her staff, I guarantee, will make the appropriate actions to try to bring that person into compliance. So they always have. It's just not is easy to catch on. And I hate to use that term that loosely, but it's just fact. So I think Mr. Sears, I'll ask him to speak a little bit more on the professional fee.
And I guess this goes back to 1994 when we adopted this particular ordinance. All right, under state law, you had business licenses. Technically, we no longer issue business licenses. All right, this statute has two, what I call schemes of taxation and levying of fees. In other words, you're paying a tax, you're not buying a business license like you used to in the old days. All right, so what it is you can operate a business, but you have to pay your tax if you operate the business. So we don't stop businesses, we collect money. And in fact, if you look at the ordinance, most people should be paying a fee twice a year instead of one, because it's always in reverse and you're supposed to be paying in advance. But everybody's basing their payment on what they did the year before. The second part of the scheme is regulatory. In the particular section that Mr. Avery references has those businesses for which you can regulate. It also has those businesses which you cannot regulate. All right. As an example, you can regulate carnivals, you can regulate pawn shops, but you have to go through a different procedure, and you actually have to regulate them if you're going to charge that fee. The city of Newnan regulates no businesses. We chose in '94 not to issue regulatory licenses, and we haven't done that. Now, some businesses are regulated, whether it's by the health department or some other, institution, but technically the city does not regulate any businesses, although there's a list that they can. All right, the next part of it is the $400 club. This is what I told Mr. Avery I'd show him. You have to take the entire code section, not just the individual sections, when you take a look at what it is. There are 18 professions. Now, I don't have any heartburn. A lot of people have done the same thing that Katrina's done here. When we adopted this in 1994, as you see here, we actually listed them in there. Well, that is subject to change by the legislature. So what Katrina has tried to do is, this is, 5, 6, 7, 8 years since we did this and did some editorial changes to the ordinance before. At this point in time, in case we didn't want to have to change our ordinance if the state changed the 18 who are members of the 400 Club. All right, that has always been an issue, and those of you who were on council in '94 will recall was an issue about the 400 Club. Of course, that just depends on who had the stronger lobbying groups before the legislature when it was approved. Now, Mr. Avery is looking at the whole section, but in another section, it's only the 18 who are given that. Now, of course, as we've had this conversation before, the city's under no obligation to actually levy a tax. All right. If you do choose to levy the tax, there are 3 methods by which you do it. What the city chose was gross receipts based upon the probability ratios that were set out in the IRS regulations. All right, so that's what we've done. Now, so you can't add to the 400 Club unless you put everybody else in the city in the 400 Club. So do you see what I mean? You can make changes, but you have to be, you can't be arbitrary and capricious. So you couldn't take, someone and put them in the you couldn't take a florist, put them in the 400 Club unless you took all retail and put it in the 400 Club. Now, you can make some exceptions based upon economic development. Those of you who on council will recall that we had an issue with what the county did with regard to their caps on the occupational tax. And as a result, we had the car dealerships who were not coming into the city limits. So we worked on that, and we came up with a formula based on, because what was happening, you know, we have this, and if you, for deliveries, we have people that, something that, you know, I made, and how do I say this, institute a delivery from Columbus to Macon, and the goods and services never come through the city. So we instituted an exception on that basis. We did an exception for the car dealerships based upon the ultimate location of where the car was going. And then that way, of course, now we've got the Nissan place, and now we've got the new Honda place. All right, so we put those in place. Now, whether or not for Mr. Avery's occupation, there's some way that you could craft some economic benefit for that, which all our businesses in town provide economic benefit. But you just can't be arbitrary and capricious and add folks in. Now, what we have done in this ordinance, and Katrina can speak to this, because of some of the things that have gone on from an economic standpoint, there's a cap in this ordinance. Now, as far as the taxing scheme is concerned, that is, correct me if I'm wrong, that is the only major change that's being made.
Yes.
The rest of the changes that are being made in the ordinance are simply editorial, so that people who have questions from reading, who may not necessarily have access to the Code of Georgia, that they can understand and staff can explain to them. But in other words, we're following the statute, and that's what you do.
Thank you. And I was here for all that discussion.
If I could clarify
If you'll,
just 1 minute.
if you'll need to come up, and the microphone will not pick you up. Thank you, Ms. Klein.
I just wanted to clarify, what Brad said is basically true, but we had, with the cap, we also established a minimum of $25 so that all businesses pay some
Right.
portion of the cost. And we had asked that the fine, if they fail to renew and they are taken to court with a citation, that the fine potentially be increased to a possible $400 rather than $200 to help with the enforcement. So everything else is pretty much for clarification, but I wanted to make sure we got those in there.
Thank you. Okay, still in the public hearing. Since there's no one else to come forward, I'm going to close the public hearing at this time and ask if council has any questions of staff regarding the issue. Yes.
Well, it's not going to inhibit us if we postpone it and go through this, because I've read the same thing that Mr. Avery's talked about, and it's not clear to me yet what you're saying, because I don't think that's the way it reads now. You may show me it's that way, but I'm not satisfied with the answer. It affects me directly, and I have been in different categories, and yet I've been doing the same thing for 20-something years, and I've changed from being one fee to another fee to another fee back to another fee, and I hadn't done anything different. So I think we need to go a little bit further and look at this real closely, because there are some other people who are affected besides us, and it may be an increase in their fee. I don't know, but we need to look at this a little bit further before we make this decision, because I'm not satisfied with the answers I've received tonight.
I understand your concern, and if you want to make a motion.
I make a motion that we postpone this decision to, for another month. Is that going to affect anything? I don't think.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? The council members who don't have a full understanding with this, I would suggest that you set up a meeting with Mr. Sears and Mr. Phillips, and as we have done through our budget process, and let them sit in their office and give you complete education on what this looks like, because what Mr. Sears said at the end was state law. And that's essentially what we're covering here.
You also switched from SIC codes to NAICS codes,
Oh,
so
yeah.
there's some
So-
differences in
Okay.
that too.
But if you've got questions, you deserve to have them answered.
One thing I want to try to keep in mind is our renewal date. That's something that we would love to try to keep a target on here. Ms. Klein, when is that going to occur?
Yeah, but that's a very simple, I mean,
That's why I asked you what time frame.
As far as time frame to get it back, that's something.
We typically mail out the renewal packets, the first week in January, and that's the other thing we have changed. We revised that date from April 1st as the final pay date, to April 15th to coincide with taxes, because we get a lot of complaints about that.
all right, okay, thank you.
If we're gonna do this, before we actually, did you close the public hearing? You might
Yes.
reopen the public hearing and continue it to the second meeting in October. Otherwise, what we may have to do, if there are substantial changes as opposed to minor changes, then we may have to re-advertise.
That's right.
And that would delay.
Okay, well,
You reopen the public meeting?
now I'd like you to withdraw your motion.
I withdraw my motion.
Withdraw the second. And if you'll, I'm going to reopen the public hearing at this time on the consideration of ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newnan, adopting revisions to Article 1, Chapter 6, Businesses. And I'd like a motion to postpone the public hearing.
Till the second meeting in October.
Give me a date, someone. Is it the 22nd?
22nd.
October 22nd.
I propose that we have this decision October 22nd.
Placed on the agenda on October 22nd. And a second.
Yep.
Motion a second. Any discussion on that issue? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. We'll move on. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is an ordinance to amend the 2019 budget for the Christmas Commission. This is before you. If there are any questions of staff, this is your opportunity to ask them. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second,
Motion is second. We adopt the ordinance to amend the 2019 budget for the Christmas Commission. Any discussion? All
Hey,
those,
just real fast, this is definitely to, they already have a budget of $10,000, this is for the $13,000 increase.
That's
yes.
for the additional spend, I think, Ms. Newnan presented a couple meetings ago.
Right. Motion is second. Any discussion? Other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. I will report that, they came and they said there were 31 trees. We approved 8 of those. The community has stepped up and volunteered to pay for the other 23 trees. So at
Nice.
this point in time, we have all 31 trees that they asked to be lighted, paid for, or committed to be paid for by the council and the community. So we thank the community very much. The next item on the agenda is a consideration of ordinances regarding the regulation of small cell wireless facilities and utility permitting within the city-owned right-of-way. This is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, the City of Newnan at Chapter 18, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places by enacting a new Article 9, Georgia Streamlining Wireless Facilities and Antenna Act, and an ordinance to amend Chapter 18 of the Official Code of the City of Newnan, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places in order to adopt updated regulations that administer and regulate the placement of utilities in the public right-of-way. Public interest is set out in Article 3, Poles and Wires. Mr. Phillips has this evening. Essentially what this is, go ahead, Mr. Phillips.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Mayor. A lot of hard work is what this is. Between staff, GMA, following the legislative session the last 2 years, there was a lot of activity back and forth with GMA, wireless carriers, Verizon, AT&T. In the last legislative session, there was agreed upon legislation that passed, and the effective date of the legislation is actually October 1, so just a couple of weeks away. And there's been a lot of cities, including the city of Newnan, that have been working diligently over the last few months to get our ordinances ready to go for the October 1 implementation of the statute. So that's what you have before you. You have number 1, first ordinances regarding the actual small cell devices themselves, and the accompanying piece below that, the other ordinances regarding the regulations of aesthetics and standards inside the right-of-way for other utilities. So the 2 pieces, and we would ask for 2 separate motions on those ordinances.
Any questions, Ms. Phillips, regarding the issue? I'll entertain a motion on the first ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second that we accept the first ordinance presented, as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. I'll ask for a motion on the second ordinance.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second, we adopt the second ordinance as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next is consider an offer and staff direction concerning an update to the World War I plaque at the Veterans Memorial Plaza. You've got this information in your agenda. If there are no questions of staff, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. We approve the consideration and the staff direction as recommended by staff in your agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next is consider a resolution authorizing application to the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program grant to assist in the funding of the Newnan Link Downtown Connector. You have this on your agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Approve as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next on the agenda is a consideration of a resolution of commitment to support the long-term maintenance of the link for an application for the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program grant.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. We adopt this or approve as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next item I'm going to ask Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins to handle and recuse myself, and that one of my agents at the office is involved in the transaction.
For information only, this is a rezoning request by WP South Acquisitions LLC for 22.485 plus acres located at the corner of Bullsboro Drive and Ashley Park Drive from CGN General Commercial District to RMH Residential Multifamily Dwelling High Density District. This is referral to the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. The next item on the agenda under unfinished business is to consider approval for application development and administrative services related to the city 2020 CDBG application. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion a second. We approve as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 6 Green Street, a new owner to update the council on status and request extension to repair or demolish.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council. This property was brought before council last month and given a 30-day resolution deadline. Now, that property was in the process of being resold. It was purchased out of foreclosure by an outfit called Ticken Olam, and they contacted me the day of the public hearing last month and said that they were in the process of selling their property, which they have done. It's my understanding that it was purchased by D-Free Management LLC. They have submitted plans for review. They've submitted an engineering letter. They've begun exterior cleanup on the lot. And I wanted to see if anyone from that organization was here tonight. They said they were going to, it's my understanding they were going to be here. Does not look like they are. But they have submitted plans, and they are in the process of renovating that property.
All right. Have you got any idea how much time they may need on that?
No, sir, I do not. I was hopeful they would be here today to let us know that. They also purchased it looks like they've started on 8 Glen Street first. They've obtained their permits and are well underway on the construction at 8 Glen. So they may be looking to complete that project first and then move to 6 Glen. So, but they are actively working on those properties.
So should we give them, say, 60 days to get a schedule?
That's my recommendation, council.
So that's my motion.
Second. Motion is second. We have a 60-day extension request on 6 Glen Street. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Let's see, Mr. Mayor, I think you're still up with continuing a public hearing from August the 27th, 2019 on 8 Glen Street, resolution to repair and demolish.
Yes, sir. This is also the D-Free Management. They have begun, as I had mentioned just a few minutes ago, they have pulled permits. and begun work on this property and are well underway on the renovation and the cleanup. And it is our estimation that the cost to repair does exceed the 50% of the assessed value of the property. But again, they are well underway on renovating this property.
How much time do you think they need?
I think 60 days.
So moved.
Second.
Well,
We need to open the public.
that's, well, we continue the public
Yeah,
hearing,
close
so
it.
it's open.
Well, it was a different owner, so we technically re-advertised for for the
Oh,
public.
you did
hearing.
re-advertise the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'm going to open a public hearing this time on 8 Glen Street. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the issue of 8 Glen Street? Resolution to repair or demolish. Seeing no one come forward, I'm going to close the public hearing at this time and ask for a motion for a 60-day extension
So
on the
moved.
repair or demolish.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next is 280 West Washington Street. The owner requests a 180-day extension.
Yes, sir. This is, it's been in council a while, but this is a property that the owners received as an inheritance, and they are working on it. They have made steady progress. It's a triplex, and they've completed the first unit. It has passed and received its CO. They are in the process of starting work on the second unit, and they have asked additional time. They are trying to work on this as they get funds available, and so they have asked for additional time.
What kind of time did they have?
They're 180 days.
Oh, it's in there, yeah.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. We grant the request for a 180-day extension on 280 West Washington Street. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. The next item on the agenda tonight is Parks of Olmsted request to place yard sign banners at their 2 main entrances from Monday, October the 28th through Saturday, November the 2nd for their annual community yard sale event.
So
Is there a
moved.
motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. We approve as requested. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next is the Newnan Junior Service League request to hold their 36th annual Canathon as in the past on Tuesday, December the 3rd from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the square.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. We grant the request as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is Eric Marston of FBC Newnan would like to set up tables with 2 banners located in downtown to offer free gift wrapping on Saturday, November the 30th, 2019, from 1:30 to 4:30. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. We approve the request as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda, I'm going to ask Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins to handle because Dr. Glover is the nephew of my wife.
We have a request from the African American Heritage Museum and Research Center for a ground-penetrating radar survey to be conducted on the site of the Farmer Street Cemetery at 92 Farmer Street.
So moved.
And actually, what I'm going to ask is that we get staff to do some sort of memorandum of understanding or some sort of agreement with them.
Yeah, we will certainly put together some agreement like we wide of entry, hold harness type agreements, but I was also going to add that I do know that in the request, Mr. Foster.
Fisher.
He is here. There is going to be some incidentals associated with Mr. Glover and the students coming down, some of the travel costs, reproduction type costs, so I would ask the council to authorize me to actually the city to cover those incidentals.
Do you have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Do we have an estimate of what those incidentals might be, or in the ballpark?
I can't imagine they would
Not to exceed
probably be
$1,000.
$1,000 or so. I can't imagine they would be more than that. I don't have any quotes from Mr. Glover, but considering.
Thank you.
Okay, call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Turn the meeting back over to the mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The next item is the consideration of the use of public right-of-ways for random pictures or promotions for an HBO film project from September 30th, 2019 to October the 4th, 2019. This, as you all know, is a continuation of their presentation to us last month, and we asked them to go back and work out the details, and in particular, not only the details of the logistics, but the details of dealing with the individual merchants and property owners, and I believe they have a report this evening. If you'll state your name for the record.
Hello, Bill Carraro here from Random Productions, and I'm executive producer on the project. Mr. Mayor, thank you for your time. Council members, as you know, the last presentation we made, we discussed coming back with a revised plan, and we know we've talked to a number of the merchants and residents in the areas we're working, and we feel that the revised plan is greatly reduced, and we've also come to a agreement with a number of the areas that we are filming. Anything that, anywhere we're filming, any curbside area, any adjacent blocks, we've made arrangements with everybody in that area. As you might recall, in one of our conversations, Broad Street was part of the presentation, and we have decided, based on inconvenience to town merchants and residents, to remove Broad Street from our filming plan, which is a total reduction of 7 prep days, a shoot day, and 5 additional wrap days. So a substantial compromise on what we were hoping for in Newnan, but recognizing it would reduce greatly our footprint here. We are now looking to film for 1 day on LaGrange Street, and that would be filming that would not be done until 6 p.m. onwards, so closures and inconveniences would not take place on that filming day prior to 6 p.m., and most of the merchants in the area will be shuttering by the time we really get into photography. We are working on 4 days of preparation, and then a reduced wrap of 3 days. We have worked out arrangements with every vendor along the curbside of our prep and parking area. That's over 17 merchants and tenants who have signed agreements with us, and we feel we have come to a great compromise with everybody in the neighborhood to make sure that we're only taking certain parking areas on one side of the street, never overbooking space that we don't need, and being very respectful to, obviously, the need for closures and making sure that the flow of traffic continues. And on Greenville Street, we are now working, and in addition to that, I would just like to add, just as with respect to the support we've been given, we've been in touch with the Newnan Rotary Club, and on behalf of the production, we're making a $10,000 donation to the Rotary Club, and we know that the Rotary Club benefits the town in many ways, and we just feel, in addition to those who are collaborating with us, it would be, our pleasure to make that donation. For Greenville Street, we have also worked out with all of the neighbors on the block and also vendors who are adjacent to where we're shooting agreements, and our closure structure has been greatly reduced so that the first couple of days we are there, we would only be, when we're filming on September 30th, we would be looking for closures, limited closures from 9 a.m. to 1 a.m., limited closures on October 1st from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m., and then for the remainder of the filming from October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, we're also dividing the closures from 2 p.m. to 4 a.m., 5 p.m. to 7 a.m., and 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. respectively, because we work into the night. And then after that, we would begin our wrap and complete our work in Newnan. All of that work that we're doing will be coordinated with Dean Jackson, with the county school district, to make sure that all school buses are let through whenever we are there, so that there's no disruption to the students getting to and from school. Obviously, all emergency vehicles, any any local, emergency will be coordinated between our staff and the police, and they will always have a right-of-way. And again, in respect to working with the neighbors and the local residents and vendors, we've reached out through Lauren Odom to the Newnan Boys and Girls Club, and we're also making a $5,000 donation to the Boys and Girls Club. And we're offering to give a sort of a show and tell to any of those interested in film and communications to see if they'd like to have a little bit of a tour of what we're doing.
Any questions of Mr. Guerrero? You have greatly reduced your footprint. We appreciate that. You have gone out and, as far as I know, like you said, made deals with those people who are storefront and the property owners along Greenville Street. The thing that still gives me angst, and it is the closure of Greenville Street, as much as it's going to close. But on the conference call we had the other day, I pointed out to you that this will be the very last time that I ever vote in favor of a permit for that house on Greenville Street, and
That's
asked you if
understood.
you had any other shots that you needed to do that day, and you said, yeah, we might want to come back. And I said to you, get it while you're there.
Yeah, so we've made that
There
plan.
won't be another permit, as far as I'm concerned, on that house on Greenville Street, and cause the problems that the traffic flow is caused on Greenville Street for those people who travel Greenville Street to and from work. They aren't affected, they don't live there, but they go from point A to B.
Yeah.
And they are affected by it, and I don't take that lightly.
Yeah.
So we appreciate your efforts and what you've done. Any other questions from council regarding what's before us?
Mr. Mayor, I need to recuse myself from this.
Certainly, I understand. Yeah, you had done business with the production company in the past, right?
I just have one question. When I look through this, on the parking spaces, and I believe you may have referenced it, but please refresh my memory. It looks like you've increased some of the parking spaces. Now, are you?
In the residential area or in the downtown?
Well, I'm talking about on the Grange Street, Spring Street, and East Broad, you're asking for those spaces. All I'm asking you is, I believe you may have mentioned that you are willing to open up those spaces as needed if you're not using them. Is that correct?
Absolutely. While we're
All right.
prepping, that is absolutely certain. Once we dig in for the one evening of shooting, and hopefully getting much quieter in any event as we get into the evening, those vehicles will, in the evening, be fairly locked in place.
To follow up on Councilmember Dionne's question on our conference call, I think it was also, we had a discussion of giving the police officers that were on your site the authorization to have that decision, or if that parking spot's not being used.
I remember clearly, any city I've ever worked in, anywhere, if there is an emergency, if they have an opinion that something is, it's their call if they need to interrupt what we're doing.
Just like for that to be on the record, that our officers have that authorization.
And is there, one of the last things, because I wasn't at the last meeting, but the time before, we talked about there being different information between us and GDOT. So has that been corrected along Greenville Street?
We're good on that. This
Okay.
particular decision tonight will dictate
When
closing
those-
schedule and
Okay.
traffic control schedule. That is correct.
Okay.
That's what's in front of you.
Okay, so are there any merchants or anyone who came here tonight to speak to this? If you'll come forward and state your name, please.
Jeff Morgan, Morgan Jewelers, downtown. I have a question once again, is on this, who decides who's infected by this parking thing? They're gonna take parking spots, it's gonna affect everybody and on the whole square. Not just those streets they're on, because those cars have to go somewhere. And they're saying everybody else is not affected because you're not right there on that street. Well, somebody's got to park somewhere, so these people have to move, keep moving, keep taking more parking spots. We have a serious problem. Every day I get at least 3 people say, I've gone around this square 3 times trying to find a parking spot, and I can't. And if you notice, when they take these spots, they always talk about the filming. If you ever notice, they put their cones out on the parking spots like a day before. They put on there with a little date, but an emergency across it, and they put them out in front of every parking spot that they're gonna take. Well, nobody's gonna park there. I mean, I had a big problem with HBO last time because they did it on the wrong day. I called, I said, what are y'all doing? This isn't the day. I went and moved the cones myself. They come up and told me they were sorry, they had made a mistake. And I said, well, nobody was parking in any of these places that y'all had marked because y'all made a mistake. But I just don't see how they can just say, well, you're not affected. You're downtown merchants, but you're not affected because we're not on your street. But they took parking spots. So that means those people are going to have to go somewhere else because they don't have any parking. So I just don't agree with the way they're doing it. I mean, if they're going to come take parking spots, they need to come talk to everybody. Make it up to everybody that's affected by them taking our parking spots. But they're doing nice things, giving the Rotary Club and the girls. That's nice. They're not doing anything for the downtown merchants. They're just taking our money. That's all they do, taking our parking spots, taking our business. And I don't see that that's right. They just told me I was not affected by this. Well, you're going to take all these parking spots up and down both of these streets and on the side streets. Where are these people going to park? They usually park there. One of them is apartment buildings, I believe, right there on West Washington. Well, those people got to park somewhere. So what are they going to do? They're going to come on up on the square and park. So that's less parking for our customers. So I think they need to go around the whole square, take care of everybody. You know, not just a few, take care of everybody. That's the way I see it. But I just wanted to bring that up to y'all, you know.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Appreciate your comment.
All right.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone else here?
Council, I'm Jason Canner with Ace Beer Growlers. Just a quick question maybe for you. Was there a different amount for boys and girls in Rotary?
I believe there is.
How was that? It just seems odd.
I have no idea.
I mean, I think kids are important. Y'all have a good day.
All right, anyone else? All right, no other comments from council or questions from council? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to grant the permit as presented this evening with the changes that have been made. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Can I make one more comment?
Certainly.
I agree kids are important, so we'll match that with the Boys and Girls Club. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate that. Anyone else who has come here tonight off agenda? Something that we didn't have on the agenda? Okay, no one coming forward. Mr. Gillen, anything tonight?
I'm good.
Mr. Gretko?
Nice art walk that we had just recently, so good turnout.
Did you?
No, I echo Mr. Critco's sentiments about the art walk and jazz in the park. It was great.
I have nothing. Michelle, John Glenn,
Art walk and jazz in the park goes super.
Mr. Bose?
I thank you, Mr. Mayor and staff for working through this movie situation to get it where we can do it. I know you spent extra time on it.
Okay, no need for executive session, I understand, so I'll entertain a motion, we adjourn.
So moved.
Motion is second, we adjourn, all those in favor?